I am presenting DLCs for Dummies. My name is Kelly Rawlston, and this is for the North Carolina Beacons of Leader Development. This is actually a session that my friend Tyler and I presented a few years ago at NC Ties, and I just revamped it and updated some things for the purposes of this conference. If you would like to follow along with me, I dropped a bit.ly here on this first slide, or you can scan the QR code here with your phone. That way you can participate in some of the slides I have available here for you as we go along. And I will give everybody a second to do that. And while we're waiting, if you'll drop in the chat where you're coming from, I think it's fun to know who I'm talking to. Hi, Connie from Brevard. I've never been there. And Jennifer Milton is from Fayetteville. Welcome. We got Beaufort. I taught in Carteret County my first year teaching. Sampson County and Duplin County. I do need to come for a visit, Connie, real soon. My sister graduated from Coertan High School. Kannapolis Middle School. Where's Kannapolis, Kelly? I am from Moore County Schools. I have been a digital integration facilitator for the last 7 years, and I'm actually going back into the classroom next year. We are starting a program in our county to bring homeschool kids into public schools a couple days a week. And I am heading that up for grades 3 through 5 next year. So wish me luck in my endeavors in a one-room schoolhouse situation. But I'm excited for a challenge. Murphy, Cherokee County Schools. Okay, north of Charlotte. Thank you, Connie. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The DPI DLC wiki is where we pulled a lot of this information, and it has it's kind of your one-stop shop for all of your digital learning competency questions. A lot of work was put into this ahead of the game, before the DLCs became a thing. DPI put all these resources together, and you have full access to that. Hopefully when you leave my session, you don't leave here more confused than you entered. In 2018, they changed the license renewal credits, or 2019, I think, the license renewal credits to renew your license. In every area, you now need 2 digital learning credits to renew your teaching license or administrative license, and that 2 credits is equal to 20 hours. So, you know, being in the session, once you scan that QR code in the end, that'll give you some credits towards those 20 hours. But what we don't realize is a lot of times, especially here in Moore County Schools, we try to embed things continuously for teachers to be able to obtain those 20 hours. So within the DLCs, there are 4 areas of focus: leadership and digital learning, digital citizenship, digital content and instruction, and data and assessment. And just like the teacher performance tools that administrators use when they are doing evaluations, DLCs are not tied to that, but in this presentation, I tried to link how our DLCs are similar to those competencies that you are evaluated on, and how they kind of are synonymous. You know, within this, the focus areas, you decide who you want to connect with and what tool or platform you want to use and how you want to learn it and how you want to learn. That is what's most important. As an educator, though you're not evaluated on these competencies, it's important that you embed them in all the things that you do within your classroom, so that it just becomes best practice. So this is the screenshot of leadership and digital learning. I'm not going to read through this entire slide because I break that down more for you in the coming slides. But leadership and digital learning, the overarching goal is teachers will demonstrate leadership in accelerating their integration of digital teaching and learning pedagogies. So the first one is you engage in virtual and face-to-face learning communities to expand mastery of technology applications for professional growth and student learning. So we became really great with this in the last year and a half. In fact, we're doing it right now. We're doing a virtual learning community situation with this conference. So what this is saying is that you choose how you're going to grow professionally and what platform works best for you, so that you can get the most out of it. Some people learn better in a one-on-one, I'm sitting in a face-to-face classroom situation, and some people, really thrive on that online learning environment. Like I said, the pandemic didn't give us a whole lot of choice in how we chose to do our professional learning in the last few months, but we're getting back to normal. So I want you to tell me how you prefer to connect with other professionals in this answer garden. So if you go ahead and click on this link or type in that URL right there, there's only a few of us in the session, but I'm interested to see how you connect with professionals. I'm going to click. Oops. I'm going to open this in a new tab so I can see your answers. So how do I prefer to connect with other teachers? As of late, I like to connect with teachers face to face because we haven't been getting a lot of that with our learning. In-person conference, PLCs. I do love a conference. I like the connections that you make at a conference and the ability to network. I think we've been missing that. All of us have been as of late. Amy says face to face. I agree, Amy.
Sorry, I opened the other on my phone and I can't get it to let me interact, so.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. I'm going to kick you out immediately. So your professional learning network, this is, again, how you decide who you want to connect with and how you want to connect with. And there are so many networks, within your buildings, within your districts, across the state. And I think this is why, we were leading into, this is why we like a conference, because you can start to build personal relationships with other professionals. There are always people available to answer your questions, especially on Twitter. I have gotten away a lot, really far away from using Twitter professionally, but I have all ideas that when I go back into the classroom, it's going to kind of be my lifeline, because I haven't, like I said, I haven't been in the classroom for 7 years. I've been a digital coach. So there will be people there available to answer questions and share your expertise. Some people, a lot of younger teachers are using Instagram. The only reason I haven't personally dipped into Instagram for my professional use is because I like to keep them separate. I have a professional only Twitter account, and my Instagram account is personal. So again, that's your preference. Also, you can share your expertise. You can get lots of ideas. You can go on Twitter and just search like a content piece, just like you would Pinterest. And let's say I'm teaching fourth grade and rocks and minerals is one of my content areas. Well, then it pops up, you know, if I search that in within Twitter, then it'll pop up and I'll see all kinds of lessons. And the cool thing about that is I can ask the person that did the lesson directly a question and usually get an answer. You know, so that's one way to start your network, how to you know, advocate for the awesomeness that's going on in your classroom. And, you know, then people come to you as their subject matter experts. It's, I tell students all the time, I don't want them to be only consumers of information, but also producers of information. So I encourage you to do that as well. Advocate for all the awesome things that you're doing in your classroom and put it out there. And it's wouldn't be considered a humble brag. It's like, hey, this is awesome and you should do it too. And so that's kind of where your network comes in. So that's built right into the competencies. How are you connecting with other educators? So here I said we can get connected, and I started a Google Sheet where you can put in, we can build our own PLN just from our small group here, and we can connect and share Twitter handles so that we can, you know, kind of follow each other and see what awesome things we're doing in our own classrooms. The fact that you're here on a Wednesday afternoon at 3:45 tells me that, you know, you want to learn more, and you know, this is totally optional, but it's an awesome resource just to connect. So if you look, I threw mine in there already, maybe, haha, at A.M. Rawlston. So you can as well. I know my Zoom says Kelly Priest, but that was my married name and I'm not married anymore. So I went back to my maiden name. Also, if you go onto Twitter, there are Twitter chats happening always about various topics in education. I'm going to open this in a new tab as well. So today alone, again, I'm at the mercy of Sandhills Community College's internet here. You can see all the education chats that are happening and what time they happen. So to me, that's an amazing resource. So if there's a topic that you're interested in, you can definitely jump into those live chats and see those kinds of things for networking opportunities. So this, where it links to your teaching standards, the elements that you are actually evaluated on. If you look at North Carolina Standard 1, element 1C, it's teachers lead the teaching profession. So as you're sharing your resources, your ideas, you're being a leader. Anytime you branch out in your PLCs and it's like, hey, this is a great resource, this is what I use, you are showing leadership. Anytime you're taking personal action for your own learning, you are being a leader. So that's very important, and know that you're already doing that. The next element is you take initiative with your own professional growth to inform your practice. So what that means is you, just by being here, you've taken your own initiative. You're growing professionally. You are learning the best practices for what you're doing. So I want to congratulate you on that. Y'all are already killing it. So there's a variety of professional development platforms, as we just discussed. You have face-to-face, online, or independent. And a lot of independent is like what we call badging. That's where you do things independently, you turn something in for credit, and then different districts or different coaches have different ways of giving you credit for that. A few years ago, sorry, we've got duplicate pictures on the slide. Let me delete that. A few years ago, we did digital badges in this platform where we had a Google slide for every teacher in our district or at our various schools, and then they, showed how they used them in the classroom, and then we gave them badges, and that's cute, but it became a lot to manage. So our district, we got together as instructional leaders, and we said, okay, oh wait, there is a Google form. This is how teachers submitted it. They filled out this Google form. Like I said, we went away from that just because it became a lot to manage. But if you're just doing something, for the sake of your school, as opposed to a whole district, it wouldn't be as cumbersome to manage. We did create, they do have badging within Canvas. So that's the route that we went. We created we call it our do it yourself DLC course. And the course was broken up into threads. Like we had a K5 thread, a 6-8 thread, and a 9-12 thread. And then teachers could earn badges, and they could earn 0.1 to 1 full DLC CEU. And so I actually have this open in another tab so you can kind of see what that looked like. Teachers would register within our course through Timekeeper, because that's kind of where we personally keep track of all of that. And then these are the different credentials that they could get badges on next year. Of course, as a team, we'll sit down this summer and be like, okay, what do we want to do? But the cool thing is it keeps track of, Canvas will keep track of who completed it after we've graded it, and how many and which badges they actually earned credit towards. So we did 10 so that we put an actual, full hours worth of work into each of the 10 different skills. And then, they got 0.1 if they only completed one of these badges. But if they completed all 10, then they got a full CEU. So this was kind of one of those, especially for your teachers, that when the DLCs were immediately implemented and you needed them for a license renewal, and teachers were scrambling at the end, like, oh my gosh, I've got to get 20 hours and I don't have that many. This was a kind of a buffer for us to be able to do that. Yes, Kelly is right. She said that she loves that the badging courses and credits in Canvas are automatically tracked for you. So so when you do that, I don't know if when I go into, I don't want to like click on people because I don't want all of our teachers' names on blast, but when you go in there, it will show you individual teachers' badges. And so we can say Kelly Rawlston got 3 badges, so that would be 0.3 CEUs for her at the end of the year. And we put a cutoff date, for our teachers on when they can do that. So that was kind of a nice way of us implementing that within our district. So the link to our teaching standards, again, because I want to keep bringing that back to like how you are being evaluated. Teachers link professional growth with their professional development. So that's just being a reflective practitioner, right? You're growing because you're developing yourself. So that's important. We don't want to be stagnant. We want to continually grow because our kids are continually different. I know I started teaching 15 years ago, and the issues and the concepts that we face in the classroom today are way different than when I started. So I don't want to be that teacher that's still in the 2006 mindset. I want to be in the 2021 mindset. So professional development. It ensures educators continue to strengthen their practice throughout their career. And I know you say, oh, we got staff development. Ain't nobody got time for that. You don't really have time not to practice, you know, and participate in professional development, because that's where we learn. The next element is you demonstrate leadership for technology innovation beyond your own classroom. So here I would like you to drop in the chat how you do that. How are you showing leadership in your building, in your district, for technology innovation beyond your own classroom? Because I guarantee you, you're already doing it. In some fashion, you're already doing it. So a lot of when these DLCs were written, I believe they were written based off of things teachers were already doing. And that's why I put in my course description, you're doing these things anyway. This is just for a better understanding of what each of these things are. So how are you demonstrating leadership? I'll tell you one thing that we do that's really cool in our buildings. We do these things called digital smackdowns. And it's like an after school meeting. We do them maybe twice a year, where teachers will come in and they'll share a tool or a project or an activity they've done to the entire staff. And it's like they have 1 to 2 minutes. So it's not like they have to prepare a whole lot, but it's like, hey, I use this tool for this. And it's like, it will generate and spark ideas with other grade levels. And I love that. I love those conversations. And I love hearing how other teachers are integrating technology, because even though that's my job, you know, sometimes teachers think of things that I don't necessarily think of. And then I go back and I share those same ideas and concepts with my team. So they get spread, you know, throughout the entire district. So even if you're not blasting the great things that you're doing on Twitter, there are ways that you can be sharing what you're doing and being a digital leader without, you know, using Twitter. Yep. Amy, is exactly what we were talking about. She said, we were asked to lead workshops in our school on a tool that we were using. That's perfect. Kelly says she's a curator for resources for the teachers that go with their curriculum needs and share in PLC meetings, newsletter, email, and in person. That's perfect. Any way that you can broadcast the amazing things that you're doing, that's going to help. And it's going to help so many others. A lot of new teachers are a little bit intimidated to share what's going on in their classroom, but I guarantee you, those of us with some cobwebs on us, we love to hear those ideas. It helps us, and it helps keep us fresh and relevant, and you know, share away. Connie says, staring at my student chatter pics on the student news for all to see. Yes, I think that's an amazing idea. Sharing out those projects and those products, that is amazing. I think it's great to see how your tools are being used, because everybody kind of thinks of ways to do it differently. Perfect. So the next one is engage in peer collaborative problem solving through continuous planning, designing, testing, evaluation, recalibration of teaching methods, and using appropriate digital technology. So you do this, right? You do these things in your grade level meetings and PLCs for all content. You're talking about, okay, what are we doing? What's going well? What didn't go well? What did we do? You know, with all practices of instruction. This is just encouraging you to do that with digital tools as well. what are best practices, what works in your classroom, what doesn't. And it can be all facets of digital technology. Okay, we used this in my second grade class and it really wasn't appropriate. My kids really struggled with it. And then you can talk to your teammates. What would be a great alternative? If you're lucky enough to have a diff or a ITF in your building, they can help you with these things as well. We like to sit in on these meetings in our district so that we can hear what went well and what didn't. We can provide feedback, and then we can pass that along to our peers. I will say that's a great thing that we have going in our district, is like we're constantly sharing out ideas and projects that we're doing in all the buildings. Most of us were assigned to multiple buildings. So, what worked well with one population of students might not work well for another population of students, but you could think of appropriate alternatives. One way we did this is we created engineering lessons that are embedded in our curriculum. And I put a link to our Moore County Schools curriculum document site in here, and it's still under construction because it's some of it is it's summertime. But I kind of wanted to show you like an example of how we have sourced that. So I'm going to go to fourth grade, and I think for the most part we did it in science and math. Sometimes ELA. But if you look on our pacing guide, you'll see these like little tools in some of them, and it's like our engineering thread. And then and so you'll see like the lesson and the project summary, and some of these are like we did these a couple summers ago, 2019. So like some of them, we encourage our teachers to revise and revisit based off of that. But that was like one way that as a team we came up with like a robotics and non-robotic computer science type engineering activity for each grade level. And so we started small, and then now we're using Go Open to collect we collected them from all over the state, which was really kind of cool this past year. But we collected lessons from all grade levels, all content areas for engineering and design. So that's kind of a cool thing we've got going on here in Moore County. You guys should have access to those Go Open lessons as well that we created, or not created, but we harvested and published. Also, the next one is promote open lifelong learning as an iterative process of success, failure, grit, and perseverance. So we talk about this. I remember talking about it as an undergrad. We want our students to be lifelong learners. Well, we want us to be lifelong learners too. So that element is just saying, okay, we want you as an educator to be okay with being a lifelong learner, and to realize that once you stop learning, you're stagnant and you're not growing anymore. So we want you to continue to learn so that you are successful, so that your students are successful, and that you're reaching each student where they need to be. The next set of standards is digital citizenship. And I could stand on my head all day, every day, talking about digital citizenship, and it just won't be enough. This past 3 years, I've worked at an elementary school and middle school. And some of the things that students do, you just cannot unsee. And I think that we cannot treat digital citizenship like it is a one stop, let's talk about this for a minute and then move on to our lesson. It needs to be a continuous conversation within your classroom every day, all day. Students are very impulsive, that they do things continuously that they shouldn't online. And if you don't have clear expectations in your classroom, if you aren't modeling that, if you aren't including them in those conversations on a regular basis, it's such a slippery slope that we can get into. It cannot be a lesson that you hit one time and then you move away from. It's got to be embedded in all things. Anytime you have a device in their hands, or even not, you need to have those conversations. So the first strand is our competency is demonstrate an understanding of intellectual property rights by abiding by copyright law, intellectual property, and fair use guidelines. Holy moly, y'all. I know that as teachers, we beg, borrow, and steal wherever we can because we poor, but it is very important to teach those things early on to your students. Teach them how to put a copyright filter on their Google search. Teach them how, copying and pasting an item is not conducive. It's not your own work. You shouldn't get credit for it. In fact, when we were, I've seen people submit lessons for those Go Open lessons in which they absolutely, adults, teachers, in which they copied and pasted an entire lesson that was on a website. And they even put the website in there thinking that was citing their source. But the fact is that wasn't their work. It wasn't original. If I can Google it, it wasn't yours. So, that's a slippery slope, especially, with the internet being, so readily available. Students are able to just, pilfer whatever they want. And we need to teach them that that's not okay. It needs to be their own original work. So the teaching standard that connects to is teachers demonstrate high ethical standards. So you need to model that. You need to have those discussions with your students. It's not just, copyright is not just the conversation for your media specialist in your building. It needs to be your conversation too. Teach and require the use of copyright law and fair use in student work and creation. Again, it's the same thing. You can't pass off somebody else's work as your own. And I'm not going to play this whole thing, but we found this, and I did cite the source and when it was published down here. But this is a little YouTube video about copyright law, and it was cute. I actually came across this when I was in grad school. See if it'll play for me. Some of it, anyway. Yeah, it's 10 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Oh, you can't hear it. Oh, sorry, Amy. And it was so good too. Sorry. Let me see. Let me go. Let's see if I do it this way. It could be the computer I'm on. If you don't hear it this time, throw it in the chat and I will, I'll just, you can watch it on your own with the slides or whatever. Nope. Oh, I made it mad because I'm trying. Oh, this is not the same video. Time out. Never mind. You get the point. All right. Here, I think it's an important discussion to have with your students about engaging in responsible and professional social interaction. This video you don't need any sound for, but when I'm done with it, if you can, either throw a 4 to 5 word summary of the video either on that Padlet or you can throw it in the comments. But this is an oldie but goodie. My boss has been a technology facilitator since probably about the time I started teaching, and he used to use this video. It used to be a commercial on TV a while ago, but it's so true about like when you put something out there, it's always out there, even when you try to get rid of it. And students have a hard time with that. Like they you know, I'm sending this via Snap. Well, people can take a screenshot of your Snap. People can, you know, anything can be recorded or reshared. Just because you think it's private doesn't mean it is. It's out there forever. And I like to tell students a lot. I have a friend who actually teaches digital forensics at Marshall University. And I had him talk to students one time and he's like, I can recover a Snap. Like, you think it's gone, but it's not. You know, there are ways. Anything that's out there, I can retrieve. So if you know what you're looking for. So anyway, this is a cute video, and again, I don't need sound for it. All right, so throw something in the chat or either on the chat or in the Padlet. It'll let me. Oh, my Padlet link is not. Oh, there it goes. You can either throw it here or in the chat, something that you thought about DLC or about that video. That last one, you didn't need to hear it. That's correct. Yep, things shared online are permanent. I like the reference that you see on Pinterest or whatever, where the teacher squeezes the toothpaste and then tells students to try to put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's kind of the same thing. Just like what you say can't ever be actually be taken back. Yep, Amy, you're exactly right. Things that we say are always out there. And I feel like I know some adults that need to learn that as well. Yes, I didn't have to think about that when I was growing up too. I tell my my friends' kids that are like getting ready to go to college, I'm so thankful. Social media was first a thing. Like back when I was in college, you had to have a college email to have a Facebook account, and I was terrified of it because I was like, oh, I don't know anything about this. But like, I'm so thankful that everything that I did in college isn't documented. Whereas, now that's not the case. So moving on, so you integrate digital citizenship curriculum into student learning. Like I said, it needs to be a continuous conversation that you have with your students. There are different sites that can help with that. The FBI actually has a cute little lesson pathway for, I believe it's 3rd through 8th grade students, and it's based off of skills for those that are age appropriate. And then Common Sense Media has a whole scope and sequence that you can check out for each grade level as well, and it hits all of those digital citizenship issues. But like I said, it doesn't need to be like a guidance lesson that you just hit every once in a while. It needs to be continuous, but it would be a good jumping off point. If you did some kind of digital citizenship lesson early in the school year, or when students are first given devices, and then you can continuously reference that throughout the year, that will help you in the classroom. So it's important that one of the competencies is demonstrate global awareness through engaging with other cultures via advanced communication and collaboration tools. So some of the cool things, we've done lots of cool things, right? Some of the cool things that we've done in our district is we did like a whole global read aloud. We do like one book, one school, but with the global read aloud, you can actually, they were going to discontinue it after 2020. And then I read yesterday, as I was making sure all my slides were accurate, that they are going to do it in 2021. You just go to their Facebook group and you sign up, and then you can connect your students to students from around the world. I've connected students to students in France, in Brazil, in the UK, where else? Cool, Australia, South Africa. So like it's really cool. And like we'll do like mystery Skypes and that kind of thing. And then kids ask each other questions. I'll never forget, I was in a 5th grade classroom one time, and we were doing a mystery Skype with a school in the UK, and my 5th graders asked if they knew Harry Potter. And then we had to have a whole conversation, like, Harry Potter is a fictional character. These students are not. But then they were like, because they made that connection, they were like genuinely curious. I had one classroom, one 3rd grade classroom that started with a class at the beginning of the year in Canada, in Toronto, and they did a mystery Skype with them. And then it ended up being like a bi-weekly thing where they would just chat like the last 30 minutes of the school day. They were actually in our same time zone, so it kind of worked out. Or maybe they were an hour behind. I can't remember. But it was cool because the kids would write questions throughout the week about things they wanted to ask their new video pals in Canada. And like, even though like the cultures are very similar, the fact that they were thinking about those things was pretty awesome. Level Up Village is another activity that we've quite a few schools in our district have participated with, and they have like lessons. It's really cool. They have lessons that you do at the same time as another school in another part of the world. The one that we did, I had 5th graders do the global water crisis, and we were teamed up with a class in Zimbabwe, and our kids could actually ask those questions to those students, and it made it real and authentic. So anytime you can jump on board and you can make those connections for students, it brings it into another light. It's not such an abstract thought for them that they're reading on paper. So, you know, there are all kinds of resources. And again, Twitter, again, is a great resource for, you know, making those connections and finding those resources that you can use for making those kinds of learning experiences for your kids. I know that Skype in the Classroom used to do all those lessons that you know, you could connect with zoos and all that as well, and students could actually ask live questions. Any of those learning opportunities are super rich and meaningful. The teaching standard that connects to is teachers embrace diversity in the school community and in the world, because our students come from all different backgrounds, and you know, they see things differently than we do, and like I said before, teaching and learning is not what it was when I started teaching. Things change at a very rapid pace, and we need to make sure that we are cognizant of that as well. The next competency is ensure full, equitable access and participation of all learners through high quality technology tools and resources. So this is where like your coaches and your ITFs and stuff are very helpful, because you know, where a Chromebook might be appropriate for one population of students, you might have a student with special needs that needs that touch screen interface. It's your job to advocate for those students and make sure that they have what's appropriate for them, but you know, so that they can also do similar or, you know, modified lessons just like you would any other material that you have in your classroom. The next set is digital content and instruction. So this is like, this has been my job for the last seven years. Teacher will know and use appropriate digital tools and resources for instruction. So you design technology enriched learning experiences that encourage all students to pursue their individual interests, preferences, and differences. So this is where choice boards become a thing, right? After you've taught a few different tools or skills, then you can look at your students and you can say, okay, you can do X, Y, and Z. You know, I just need to know that you understand what we're teaching. Students thrive. They love that. Also, you know, it becomes important that, like I said before, students are producers and not consumers of information. We don't want our technology to be a babysitter in the classroom. I can't handle those programs in a box where kids are just sitting and just, you know, answering questions or regurgitating information. You also want to make sure that they are designing and creating and showing you what they know and how they know it. The teaching standard that relates to is teachers recognize that the interconnectedness of content areas and disciplines, just like you integrate, you know, science and math or ELA and social studies, you know, everything is interconnected, every subject area, you know, so there shouldn't be just a one time for computer learning or one time for digital tools. It needs to flow and be synchronous. Also, teachers make instruction relevant for students. Okay, these kids were literally born with devices in their hands or pretty close to it. So these digital natives can probably show us a thing or two, honestly. In fact, I have a master's degree in instructional technology, and I've had students teach me, you know, more than once or twice how to do something on it, you know, with different devices or technology, or even a tool I've taught in the classroom. They'll say, hey, look, you can do this too. And I'll be like, okay, I learned something new. And don't be afraid of that either, or intimidated. But definitely makes learning relevant for students. If you can hook them any way possible, they're going to get excited about learning. So these are things that we're doing. So with the interconnectedness, we meet in PLCs at our schools. We have our administration support. We do vertical planning across grade levels and subject areas. This benefits your student and your teacher understanding. And then we do cross-curricular lessons and activities. And then to make it relevant, we tap into prior knowledge of your students. You have to know your audience. What are they into? I know, like, my personal children that go home with me every day, they're like super into Fortnite and Minecraft and all those things. And yes, those things have been around for a while, but like anytime you can tell my son or relate something back to Fortnite or Star Wars or Minecraft or whatever he's like into, guess what? He's going to be all about it. Just like when you're trying to teach students how to read and you're trying to like pull out books in the library, you know, what is going to get Johnny to like really like come to the table and want to read this book? You got to do the same thing. And then you connect to other content area topics. So you're doing that already. So you lead all students in becoming active participants in setting educational goals, managing their learning, and assessing their progress through digital tools. Okay, so we have SchoolNet. We can build assessments through there. That's one tool. Also, I suggest, having students, create a Google Sheet where they're tracking their goals and their progress. It's never too early to start. You can have like just a sheet and they color in a graph when they've made a certain, progress. But I think that just as we need to be reflective practitioners, it's important to teach students to be reflective in their learning as well. What went well, what didn't go well. You have an assessment. Well, let's talk about that assessment. Let's talk about the goals and objectives that assessment addressed. And, we look at, what things we need to go back and reteach. Well, students might need to be able to come to you and advocate for themselves as well. So, we have a lot of student graphing and that kind of thing. Then you identify, evaluate, and utilize appropriate digital tools and resources to challenge your students to create, think critically, and solve problems. You establish reliability, communicate their ideas, and collaborate effectively. So you're teaching students how to appropriately vet these tools, use these tools, how they look in your classroom, and then you want them to think outside the box. The global water crisis I was telling you about, our students had to, as part of that project, they designed water filters that they could use. And then they sent those 3D designs to that they created in Tinkercad to their friends in Zimbabwe. And they also created water filters. And we can, compared and contrasted our, the various designs and what would work, what wouldn't, why would you need a water filter? Oh, because your water doesn't come from a tap every day. So we're creating critical thinkers and problem solvers. The teaching standard that relates to is teachers integrate and utilize technology in their instruction. So the gray area there is like, yes, you have a smart board, you have a Promethean board, you have whatever, a clear touch in the front of your room that, yes, technically you're utilizing technology, but are your students utilizing it? Are they creating, are they, producing materials that show you what they know? You need to immerse students in exploring relevant issues and analyzing authentic problems through digital tools and resources. So what that means is real world problems. How are you addressing this? One of the schools in our district, maybe more than one, they do Genius Hour. And the students, come up with their own problems and their own solutions, and then they have to use digital tools and resources to do their research, to, provide their product, to present their product. Why is this the best solution to solve this problem? So students are picking their own, topic to research, and then they're, really coming at it. And so again, that goes back to the other standard where students, have some control of their learning. the North Carolina teaching standard that connects to is teachers help students develop critical thinking and problem solving skills. Oftentimes we present students with a problem, and I have seen in my personal teaching that sometimes our advanced learners, our AIG students, they want to be able to regurgitate an answer. They want to be able to, this is the right or wrong answer, and they are not accustomed to that critical thinking, to that thinking outside of the box. They want and this is more, I'm speaking more from an elementary standpoint. They want it to be, right or wrong. Whereas, we need to foster that in all students. Okay, here's a problem. Let's brainstorm some activities that, will help us solve this problem. So some things that we do is we do a digital learning showcase every year in our district. And so this kind of puts it on the kids. What are some cool things that you're doing in your building, and how, how can we showcase that? So our Board of Education comes out, our parents come out, our community leaders come out, the newspaper comes out, and they come and talk to the kids. One of the really cool things that came out of this a couple years ago is we had a 5th grade group that was doing their own digital newspaper. And they picked everything that went into the newspaper. And they researched it and they put it in there, and somebody from the newspaper was there, and they invited that group of 5th graders to come to the actual newspaper, our local newspaper office, and they got to tour and see where it was printed and the process and all that. So that was really kind of cool that they made that connection. But it's all about showcasing what the great things that our students are doing, and how the tools and the products that we have in our buildings are being utilized. Evaluate and appropriately modify the form and function of the physical learning environment to create conductive learning, digital learning environment. So sometimes we have to actually rearrange our furniture, actually, discuss how our students are seated, or, so that digital learning can take place. Like I said, digital learning is not that program in the box that, we get and, students log on and they answer all the rote questions. This is taking these tools and actually teaching them to be problem solvers and producers. So here, I said, what do you mean? If you click here, you don't have to, but it's fun. We created, maybe, just this Google Doc where you can drop a meme about how you feel about DLCs and your comfort level. It's all good, you're comfortable, or not so much. We love a good meme. Make sure my sharing settings are all appropriate. Yep. So you can drop a meme in here and tell me how you feel about the DLCs. Amy, that's a very good point. She said that she's getting better, but she still needs to learn about new tools that are available. I tend to get comfortable with what I'm using and stick with that. So what I tell my teachers is just that. You get something and you're really comfortable with it and you get really, really good at it. But when you're really comfortable with it, your students get really comfortable with it too. And then I look at it like a toolbox. So you get a hammer. You're really proficient with a hammer. Hammer does great things, but hammer is only meant to do certain things, like drive a nail into the wall or pull a nail out of the wall. If you have a screw, you need a different tool for that. So then you just add to your toolbox, you know, and it's okay to not overwhelm students and only have 4 or 5 things in your toolbox. And then, you know, get really good at those 4 or 5 things and then add something else. And then you might find something that you like even better than that hammer for that tool, if that makes sense. Yep. The last one is data and assessment, I think. It's the last one. Yep. The last one is data and assessment. So teachers will use technology to make data more accessible, adjust instruction to better meet the needs of the diverse learner population, and reflect upon their practice through the consistent and effective use of assessment. So the competencies for that is to integrate digitally enhanced formative and summative assessments as part of the teaching and learning process. So what I love about most of these tools is the instant feedback. Some of these actually, you know, sync up with Canvas, which is amazing. But also, like for your quick formative assessments, you get it out there. Students get instant feedback, and that's very meaningful for the learning of your students. A good place to get free use memes. There are meme generators online where you can make your own. And then there are in your Google settings, like when your search settings, you can just search. Most of that isn't copyright because everybody edits them and uses them. But I like to use a meme generator, like especially if I'm using it with students, so that it's relevant to what we're using. I don't have my students go on there though. Nope. Use performance data and digital tools to empower student metacognition for self-assessment and self-monitoring their own learning progress. Metacognition is not a word that we have used since undergrad, but thinking about thinking. So have your students reflect and self-monitor their own learning progress. We only threw SchoolNet and Google Sheets on the bottom of this because again, students can document where they started, where their goal is, and how far they've gotten. SchoolNet is great for your summative assessments, like for end of unit kind of things. You can use those question stems and whatnot for those purposes. Utilize multiple and varied form of assessments, including examples of student work products. So portfolios are good for this. Our K2 teachers all use Seesaw, so they have different examples of different things students have done throughout the year to show what they know, different activities that a culmination of things. That way they also have those data points for when they have parent-teacher conferences. These are the different activities we've done with this skill. I know Johnny has it, Johnny doesn't have it. The teaching standards this aligns to is teachers use a variety of methods to assess what each student has learned. So you don't want to just give a worksheet or a formative assessment. You want to also give the student other ways to show you that they know what they show what they know. Yeah. So what are we doing? Speaking from our district, but I'm assuming most districts are doing something similar. So DIF supported standards and suggested tools. DIFs is what they call us in this district. I don't know if I said that before, but digital integration facilitators. It's the worst name ever. They wanted to call us ELFs at one point, engagement learning facilitators, but I refuse to be called an ELF. Digital learning showcase, like I said, we're showing what the great things that we're doing in the classroom and schools. Job embedded PD. So we do a lot of like the gradual release model type learning with our teachers, where we'll go in, especially like your middle school teachers, like we'll go in for first block and we'll model the lesson. We'll second block, when the kids come in, we'll gradually release the amount of support that we're doing, and so that by that last class the teacher is flying free and we're just hanging in the wings in case they need it. And then we call that job embedded PD, because we're there to support you, but the more confident you get in doing something like that, the more likely you are to do it in the future. District-wide PD and conferences, and then the repository of tools and information we share to our staff via Canvas or Google Docs or websites. And then, like I said before, the Canvas course that we created, that helps, teachers be up to date with tools and whatnot. Utilize technology and digital tools to synthesize and apply qualitative and quantitative data to create individual learner profiles of strengths, weaknesses, interests, skills, gaps, and preferences. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Like you're using that data that you get back to identify strengths and weaknesses of students. Inform, personalize, and calibrate individual learning experiences. You do this with everything else. You do it when you are differentiating learning for students. Use those digital tools and that data to help your students be successful. Identify specific plans of action related to weaknesses, gaps, and needed skills as identified in the learner profile. Again, those 504 plans, your regular ed student that needs no other modifications, if they're not figuring out how to subtract, what do? You pull them in, you work with them. This is just, creating a plan based off of that data that you've gotten back, based off of the products they've given you, how you can best support those students. Reflect and improve upon instructional practice. So this is where you become a reflective practitioner. And I think that's kind of an undergoing theme in all of these competencies, is that you are self-aware, that you know the areas that you need to network in, you know what areas you need extra professional development in, and then you're constantly reflecting on your instructional practice to make it the best so that students are ultimately successful. The teaching standard that aligns to is teachers analyze student learning. You're doing that. So what are we doing? We make sure that our lessons are pedagogically sound, not doing something for the sake of doing it, and make sure that it aligns to your standards. Rubrics and standards guide the student work, black line masters, that kind of thing, so that you make sure the skills that students are showing in their products are aligned to the standards, the goals and objectives that are in our curriculum. So that's all I have for you today, and I'm like right here at time. So here you can scan this code here, and get you open your Performance Matters mobile app log into NC Ed Cloud and select the blue button, scan section code, and scan this QR code. It'll identify your attendance for the session. And then within a week, your attendance will be marked complete. And then a certificate for the session will be viewable and printed in your transcript area. If you're having issue with the QR code, they said to use that bit.ly at the bottom to connect. I'm going to actually stop my recording now. Maybe.